Hi, I'm Lucinda Laughlin. Welcome to Meet the Artist. Today our guest is Gia McNutt, who has joined us to talk about the Plaster Art Studio Tour, as well as to share some of her art with us. Hi Gia, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Lucinda. Great to be here.
Let's first start out talking about the Plaster Art Studio Tours. Maybe you can tell us what is it, and then also give us some historical background.
Absolutely. So the Plaster Art Studios Tour is a 3-day self-guided tour of many artist studios, and it's free. It spans all of Placer County. This year, there are 100 artists in 43 locations.
What do you mean by self-guided tour?
So the tour goer will have either a tour guide, which is a physical thing, or they will have the new Plaster Arts Passport app, aka PAPA, on their mobile device, and find the artists they would like to visit, either by location or medium. So there are many ways to choose where you're going to go. In addition, we have a preview show that features a piece of art from every artist, and we encourage the public to attend that to plan their tour.
Now when you go on the tour, is it possible that you're going to be able to hit all of these studios in the 3 days?
I actually have run into a couple of people, surprisingly, that was their goal and they did it. But this is very rare because that's a lot of studios and a lot of artists.
So how many artists do you have this year?
So it's 100 this year, which is the largest tour yet. And this year we have 43 locations, which isn't a lot more locations. So we're very happy about that because we think it will give the tour goers a chance to see more of the studios and each studio to have more visits.
So when you're talking about a studio, this is typically the artist's working studio?
Absolutely. Each location, for the most part, is a working studio, and in some cases, artists will be joining that artist in their studio to show for this tour.
So some of the places there'll just be one artist there, but in other locations you're going to have multiple.
Exactly.
Are there any areas where there's 4, 5, or 6, or?
Yes, there are. There are actually many locations that are group locations. And in fact, we have a tour bus this year. And that's a brand new thing this year. It's going to stop at up to 10 locations, showing or giving the tour goer on the bus a chance to see up to 48 artists. And we actually chose the locations based on a density of artists in each location. I think the one with the most artists is maybe 6, but right next door is another. And so typically there will be 3 to 5 or 6.
So if somebody wants to go on the tour bus, do they schedule to go on the tour bus and then they're on the tour for the entire day?
Yes. In fact, the tour bus only runs one day. This is our first year, so it's a trial. We're going to do it Saturday, November 11th. And there will be 2 pickup points. And they do need to reserve ahead. The tickets are only $25. It includes a box lunch. And they will be either picked up at Sun City Roseville or Auburn Holiday Inn and shuttled from studio to studio, and then they'll be dropped off at Auburn Holiday Inn or Sun City towards the end of the day.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned a brochure.
Yeah.
I noticed that you have brought a sample of the front of it, but I've also prepared this little that shows the front of the studio, of the brochure. Yeah. But also shows the map that is in the brochure. Yeah. Now that it appears that you have a lot of different of these regions where the artists are going to be?
Yes, we have 10 regions, and we're very happy that we're representing all of these regions within Placer County. In fact, we have 60% of our artists are outside the Auburn area, so we're really diverse in our regions this year. This tour guide is really quite chock full of information. In fact, we're just getting it to printer right now, so you can imagine it's been a little harried for me. It's a 56-page publication with every artist, location, medium, image of that artist's artwork, an artist index in the back, which is probably the best way to find an artist in the guide. Towards the back of the guide, there's an index. It will be listed by artist's last name, and then it will show the location number of that artist and the page number of the book that they're on.
So there's 2 ways that they could find an artist. One is to look at the region.
Yes.
And then secondly is use the index.
Exactly, and the tour guide is organized by region. So if you're just flipping through it in a linear fashion, you'll see Colfax, then Meadow Vista. Really, the locations are numbered kind of traveling down, a particular path.
Well, I also have a blow-up of one of the regions, which is the Auburn region, which kind of shows a little bit more easier to see.
Yeah.
Is that upside down? No.
No.
So basically, it looks like we have different numbers on this. I assume those represent different studios.
Different locations,
Different
exactly.
locations. And so, like, let's say I can find myself here. I'm number 20.
Yep.
So if somebody wanted to say that's Lucinda at 20,
Yep.
then can I go on in the book and look at number 20 and there's the details about me?
Absolutely. And if you had other artists with you, they would all be right there with you as well. And I forgot to answer about the tour history, and I think it
Yes.
is worthwhile to share. So the tour was founded in 1994 by batik artist Helen Phillips. And Janet Nicholson is the one who's transmitted this information to me. She's been on the tour. This will be her 24th year. So she is really the tribal knowledge of the tour. And so she shared with me that Helen created the tour because at the time she felt that artists didn't know each other in the region and that they weren't really well supported by different art organizations in the region. Of course, today we're a very active visual arts community. It's not the same as when it started. But this thing has really created a life of its own and is a really well loved tour, both by the artists and by the folks who go on the tour.
Well, this is a pretty big tour, so this must be quite a job. And I understand you are the coordinator for the tour this year.
That is correct.
And so why don't you kind of take us through what you've been going through in this last year, because we're heading up for the tours the November
Yes.
10th, 11th, and 12th.
Yes. Yes. So actually this job started in January, which to people outside the tour, they're kind of scratching their heads like, what? But there are so many things involved. I mean, to start with, we had to form a core or steering committee, and then we had to, get our artist application online and built and out in time and juried and acceptance notices, and then all of the details that go into the tour guide and the website and getting the artists to proof that information so that it's accurate and provides valuable information.
Now, a necessary component of this is that the artists not only are opening up their studios, but they are actively involved in putting on this tour as well.
Absolutely. In fact, volunteering is a standard part of most artists' participation in the tour. 5 hours or so of volunteering at the minimum. People like you are doing a lot more. We're so grateful for that. But yes, there's a lot of things involved. We've got preview shows. As I mentioned, the Taste of the Tour, the one that there will be a piece from every artist in. That will be open for 2 weeks. It's at the General Gomez Gallery in Auburn. And it requires us to docent that preview show. So there's a lot of volunteering for that.
I'm going to interrupt just a minute. So you use the word docent. So there's a lot of people that aren't going to understand what that is. So what is a docent?
A docent is someone who usually on a volunteer basis will be the person to show the people coming in whatever they are displaying there. There are docents at zoos, at museums, and at galleries, and it's the docent's job to really know about what's there and help educate the public.
Now, when is the preview show? I know you said it spans a period of time, but isn't there an opening gala type of event?
There is, for the Taste of the Tour, which is the biggest preview show. That opens November 1st, and we have a gala reception Friday, November 3rd. That'll be from 6 to 8 p.m. There will be a ceremony. It'll be quite a number of people attending, and catered and lovely food and beverages from local sponsors. So that one closes a couple days after the tour. And then we have another preview show, which we've had for the past 3 years. Very exciting. It's at the Westfield Galleria at Roseville. And it's just a tremendous location because the number of people that come in there from different areas really exposes the tour to a lot of people who would not see or hear about the tour. And that one is open actually for 3 weeks. Opens October 18th, I believe, I'm not checking my notes, and closes a couple days after the tour. And we have one other preview show this year.
And before we go into that preview show, why don't we talk about the next generation artists?
Well, and that's exactly where I was going, so. So the Next Generation Artist is another great new thing on this tour. Janet and another one of the core committee members have spoken about this early on in the year and said, we've really wanted to do this for years. And I made it my mission to, hopefully, and I did, make it happen. We have 14 artists that we're calling our Next Generation Artists on the tour this year. They are student artists, and 11 of them are from local colleges, and 3 of them are from high schools. They were all juried in one way or another. The college folks were juried by Sierra College, and then some of the others were by professional artists or mentors or teachers of those students who recommended them. And we are very excited about this because our community in art is maybe aging a little, and art is mostly out of public schools. So we figure we've got to do what we can to help get youth more engaged in the visual arts community.
So they're going to have their own special gallery showing.
They will, and they'll be at the Plaster Arts Gallery at 910 Lincoln Way. Their show is open, actually the longest. It opens on October 3rd and has a gala reception on October 6th, which is a Friday during Art Walk. And they will also be showing with their studio hosts. So each one of the next gen artists is paired with an experienced artist on tour.
Okay, so if people want more information about the Plaster Art Studio tours, what are some sites that they can go to get information?
Well, I'm pleased to say that there is only one site that they need to go to get everything, because that makes it easier for us and them. And it's www.plasterarts.org/past, P-A-S-T, 2017.
All right, so you have also brought some of your own artwork today, and you are an artist that will be on the tour in November.
Yes.
And so why don't we go through and we can kind of talk about what is your background, because when we initially talked about this, discovered that you and I both started really getting into our artwork about the same time.
Yes, yes. So around 2012, which I think is the same for you.
Yes.
I think I was going through a midlife crisis or a midlife awakening, and I had been running an IT business that I co-founded with my husband since 1992. And it was time for a change. I needed to get out of that. I started painting. I loved that. I started singing. I'm doing that actively now. And my mother was actually a visual artist, so I had it in my blood, I guess. But I really got serious about it in 2014, and I'm still, very relatively new artist. So
what is your chosen medium?
my chosen medium is acrylic, and I do some mixed media as well.
So why did you choose acrylic?
I think it has to do with the fact that I was in some acrylic classes with local artist Tracy Owens, and my son, Lorenzo, was in those classes to start with, which is what drew me into the classes. And I love it because it's easy to work with, and it dries quickly. I'm an impatient person, go figure. And
That's what I found about acrylic as well.
And I can cover over anything I don't like, which I also like. It's a real safety net.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go through and let's talk a little bit about the paintings that you have brought today. And I understand that the one that is right behind you is your signature piece.
Yeah, it is. That one is called Open Heart. And I guess along with most midlife awakenings, there's also some darkness. I had been through a very, very dark period in my life, and I had gone with some girlfriends to Treasure Island. And we were having such a great day. The sun was shining, reflecting on the water. And I felt so much joy for the first time in, it must have been 3 years. And my girlfriend took a photo of that, and I was so inspired by this capturing of this emotion that I wanted to paint from it. And it is probably my best capturing of this emotion. It really captures people. Mm-hmm. I've sold quite a few of that piece.
Yeah, it's been quite beautiful.
Thank you.
So do you normally operate from photographs or some other source?
So it's been evolving. Initially, yes. And now still, if I'm doing plein air, I do need a photo because I guess I'm just not quick enough. I'm not going to finish it with that lighting on that day. So the photo will help me finish that.
Let's back up again because you've now used another term that I'm not sure everybody's familiar with, and that is plein air.
Okay, so plein air is when artists paint outdoors, quite simply. It sounds very romantic, but the first few times I did it, it was very far from romantic. My easel fell on the ground and picked up dirt. There were bugs flying into my canvas and sticking, and yeah, there were some things that weren't great.
And you still went back and did it again?
But I don't do it that much, but I'm hoping to do it more. And here's the thing, when I was painting from the photos, and also as an early artist or an emerging artist, I think a lot of us tend towards more realism at that end of the spectrum of our career. And as I've moved along, I'm getting a little more impressionistic, a little more broad brushstroke. And I really like that. I actually recently started working with a palette knife, and I love that because I can't go detail. And it helps me, and it creates a whole bunch of new types of looks that I haven't had in the past.
Now, is this one done with a palette knife?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Yes.
I recognize that was probably the case.
Yes, and you get a lot of really great texture, and I love texture. So, and you can see it here. This is an original. I don't know if we can see it on the camera, but it's got quite a lot of texture on there. This is from a trip to Europe we took last year, as are a couple of others that you'll look at in a moment. And I was just so enchanted by Europe. I mean, I could paint from images from Europe for the next 10 years, probably.
I'm the same way. I also use them as a tax write-off.
Very good. Now, didn't you just go somewhere?
I did. I just got back from the UK
And
with lots of pictures.
excellent, excellent.
Now, I know that you also do multimedia. Did you go into multimedia because of wanting more texture to your work?
Yeah, I think so. And I also find that people love it. I mean, I probably need to do more mixed media. People really like it, and I guess it's more fun.
Let's explain mixed media.
So mixed media simply means you use a variety of materials on your piece. It could be really literally anything. It could be metal. It could be fuzz or fur, like one of the pieces I did was of a cat. We don't have it here to show today, but the fur was all 3D. There was a valance that came out on the table and things like that. So it's fun. I think it engages people, and it's not so serious. I think that mixed media, in many cases, brings out kind of a fun and lightheartedness.
I think it adds to the depth of the picture too.
I do too.
I've been kind of looking at it, and look, I just saw one that was a watercolor, but they put a glaze over it, which was very interesting. Again, another way to get that texture in there to add a little bit more pop to the picture.
And once you do that, it's officially mixed media. Once you mix mediums, then you're mixed media.
All right, so let's go on to this one, which looks like, to me, it's like 4th of July. It's a fair.
Yep. It's the Gold Country Fairgrounds.
Oh, it's so great.
And so this one actually is a giclée. It's a reproduction of a larger piece that I have that started because I was given the honor of painting a utility box in Auburn, on Auburn, Folsom, and Pacific. And I needed to practice. I'm a new artist. I was petrified. I'm going to paint this box in front of these people and there's nothing on it, and they'll go, well, that doesn't look like anything. But I had to get over it, and I did. And so I had a practice canvas at home, and that's where I practiced everything. And when I got done with the box, I decided to make that into its own painting. And one of the things is with utility boxes, there's electrical equipment in it. So they warned me right off the bat, it can't be dark. And I took that to note, but apparently not well enough. And I had to redo part of it 2 times to make it light in the sky. So when I finished my thing, I said, I get to make it as dark as I want.
So when you actually do it.
Exactly.
All right, so you have 2 absolutely gorgeous pictures here, and I know that this one has to be from the same trip that you were on here.
Yes, both of them are actually. And you're looking at the lavender field now, I believe. And that one, again, the lavender there, just, so inspiring. The smell, the look, it's such a bright purple. And the buildings in Europe are just so, I don't know, they're just, they are compelling to me. They're all textured and not straight angles. They're almost part of nature. So, so that one is the lavender field. And
there is a great amount of appeal to those pictures, definitely, and you have definitely captured it here. It's lovely.
Thank you. Thank you.
The one above, again, we have the wonderful buildings that you have in that area.
That was from a little hilltop village we stayed in, actually, or right outside of, called Bonnieux, France. And again, enchanting. Everywhere you looked was a piece of art waiting to happen.
And you have one more that's sitting down there beside you if you just share it.
Absolutely. So this is probably quite recognizably Venice. And because of my love of reflections of light on water, Venice may even have been more enchanting to me than the other places. They're all enchanting, but the reflections on the water, both during the day and at night, which was a whole different look. Hard to photograph, though. My photographs at night were Not good.
It is difficult to get it at night.
Yeah.
I had a friend that just recently traveled there, and I was able to use a lot of their photographs that they took. It is absolutely. What I found the most difficult, though, is the shots that I want. There's always too many people in them.
You know, there's that, but I actually now am trying to move towards landscapes with figures. Figures are intimidating, or have been to me as an emerging artist. And I'm trying to get more into that now, and the one we looked at earlier of the kids with the bicycle, with the
Yes.
old building, I just thought I'm going to do it. I'm going to get these figures in here. I did chicken out on this one. There was a gondolier and whatnot, and well, I couldn't get the perspective right, so I painted him right out.
Gondolas are really tough to do.
And it was a really weird angle, so I just had to say goodbye to the
This
gondolier.
is absolutely lovely. I love
Thank
the
you.
water on it.
Thank you.
So when you go ahead and when you start one of these pictures or paintings, do you sketch out on the canvas before you start?
A little. I tend to sketch the major components of the composition. A horizon line, perhaps. If there's a structure in, again, maybe we don't want it directly center, so I better sketch it out over here and see then how the mountain tops, actually scale into that. That's pretty much it. Kind of a real loose composition with pencil.
Now, have you found any special surprises in doing the work that you've like, oh, I found an easier way to do this than when you started out?
Well, definitely. There's this whole concept of the underpainting, which I just learned about last year. And what that is instead of starting with a white canvas, you put a wash of a particular hue on it. Could be like a yellow ochre, or could be, something like that.
Now, when you say wash, that's actually just putting a paint on it, right? It's not spraying some type of a wash.
No, it's a watered down,
Okay.
a watered down paint to give it a tint, so that you don't end up with little bright pieces of white poking through your piece of work.
Got it.
Some other things that I've learned is definitely paint the bones or the broad brush strokes first. I used to get all this detail going and then go, wow, the face isn't right. Why did I paint all the details? Start over. So I'm learning.
I imagine that's kind of hard to do when you have to start all over again.
Well, it is hard, but if it's not right, it's not right.
So let's look at, if we go to, what did I do with it?
This one right here.
Thank you. So in the book,
Yes.
you are in the Colfax area.
Yes.
And this is, I apologize for the size of it, but this is actually from the Colfax page.
Yeah.
Up in the corner, when you go through the brochure, it will have the map for the region.
Yes.
And then a number for each one of them. And then there are numbers beside it. And I note that you are over here as 1D.
Yes.
And so that there are several other artists at the same location.
Yes.
And so that's a signal that there are more than one artist at that location.
Absolutely.
And then we have 2 and 3.
Correct. Yeah. I'm really just so pleased to be at Stargard Art with Jay Stargard and Marilyn Solomon and Cliff Swain Solomon, and also one of the next gen artists, a Del Oro ceramicist named Madeline Clark. So it's going to be a great location.
Now, when you were starting out and to get this tour together, did you have any thought of the Herculean effort that you were going to be undertaking here?
Yes, I did. I did because I had been on the tour 3 years. I could see what was involved. Even then, I couldn't really see what was involved. Kind of like kids. You can kind of know what's involved, but until you have kids, you don't know. But it has been really a lot, and I've made it more than it needed to be. So I'm gonna, own up to the fact that we haven't had a mobile app in the past. We haven't had a tour bus in the past. We haven't had next gen, but all these things were things that I was very passionate about and thought would really bring something to the tour. So I jumped in.
No, I think that's absolutely good because you are bringing new life to the tour, new ideas to the tour. I think it's absolutely fabulous that you're doing that.
Thank you.
Now, in addition to that, that means that you're also trying to prepare as an artist to get ready for the show. So have you
Yes.
been able to get any of painting done as you've been trying to manage this tour?
Very little, and as things will go in life, I was just accepted into High Hand Gallery and installed several pieces in there Monday and Tuesday. So no, and I'm going to get busy. I'm going to have a strict routine because at this point I must. I haven't done a lot. I've been very busy on that tour, so coordinating.
So when you come up with an inspiration for a particular painting, is it some, like this one obviously is something you said that you really wanted to capture in a painting. It was something that you carried with you, I assume, for several years before you figured out that's how I want to depict it. So is it the same with a lot of your art where you kind of carrying it around inside of you for a while and then decide, or is it just like, okay, now I'm going to sit down and I'm going to try to do something?
I think it might be more like the latter. I'd like to say it was more like the former, but when something just grabs me, I want to start it. And I might start 3 or 4 and then, you know, put that aside, or maybe have a problem, like Gondola Man was a problem. So he got set aside for a while I painted a couple of others. And you just have to go with what you're feeling it on, you know, at that moment.
Now when you want to, if you were telling somebody interested in art and possibly learning to work with acrylics, how would you tell them to start out?
I would actually tell them to take a class. It's so helpful to have a teacher or a mentor just kind of guiding and giving you some tips as you start. I mean, you can certainly do it on your own. And here's the thing now, the internet, my goodness, you can YouTube anything on a how-to. Pinterest.
Yes.
Nonetheless, having a real human being who's encouraging you, who's giving you some, you know, concepts, you know, and then beyond that, there's, you know, of course, art school. People go to art school. I haven't done that. I've taken classes. Of course, my mom, growing up with her, she gave me insights. But, you know, I have a lot more learning to do. So I would just say, yes, take classes.
I'll have to tell you a funny story about an artist who was telling me how to get started. He told me that I would need to go out and buy 400 pieces of art that I really liked, take them home, study them, and then figure out exactly what my style was going to be based on what drew me in the most. And I had to think, oh, 400 pieces of art? I don't have that much money.
Right? Oh my gosh, that is so funny. And here's the thing about style, okay? This is a real contentious issue because you can see I've got a variety of things going on here. I have not picked a style. I am not sticking to it yet. My first couple attempts at getting in galleries, some of the most feedback was really, it's too diverse. We need to be able to recognize that's Lucinda, that's her art. Well, I haven't decided that yet. You know, I like doing a lot of different things. So I think that's kind of a funny way to go about it, but it could work.
I guess. I just thought it was very strange too.
Very strange.
So if people want to actually see your artwork, where's the best way to get a hold of you or see your, do you have a web page?
I do. My website is www.giamcnutt.com. I'm also on Facebook, Gia McNutt Artist. And I am also at the High Hand Gallery now, located on Taylor Road in Loomis.
Well, it looks like that's all the time we have today. I want to thank Gia for stopping by. I really appreciate all the information about the Plaster Art Studio Tour coming up on November 10th, 11th, and 12th. I also want to thank you for tuning in to Auburn Community Television on Wave Channel 20 or on YouTube. Meet the Artist is supported by the North Auburn Artist. We are hoping to introduce artists to you that are in our local community. Who knows, maybe you have an artist living just right around the corner. Thanks for tuning in.